It's the lens, it's the lens, it's the lens, gotta live diverse. It's the lens, it's the lens, it's the lens, live diverse. You're listening to The Lens, Living Diverse, a podcast brought to you by the CNIB GTA advocacy team. Join Neisha and I while we talk to individuals who are part of the sight loss community and speak about the intersecting identities as well as the unique experiences. In today's episode, you're going to meet your two hosts, myself and Neisha, where we're going to let the audience know about different identities and intersectionalities. Neisha, it's our first episode. Aren't you excited?
Yeah, let's do this. I'm pumped.
Yeah, letting the audience get to know a little bit about us. And it's really cool to do this in an episode to just know about the hosts and our backgrounds when it comes to diversity.
Definitely.
Yeah, so let me start this off. Actually, let me ask you this question. So tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what intersectionalities you live with.
Hi, everyone. This is Neisha. It's great to be here. So a little bit about myself. Well, I am a Black female in my late 30s. I do have sight loss. My eye conditions are glaucoma and cataracts. In my left eye, I'm left with just light perception. And in my right eye, it's pretty blurry. I can't make out details, but I can see certain colors and certain shapes. My background is Trinidadian. My parents are from the beautiful twin islands of Trinidad and Tobago. I grew up in Canada, so I am a first generation Canadian. I grew up in the East End of Toronto. I'm a Scarborough girl, born and raised. Love my city, love my hometown. And I am really happy to be here. Also, I forgot, sorry. I am the coordinator for advocacy and community outreach for CNIB, representing the GTA and Ontario East. So I work with clients with their one-on-one individual advocacy concerns, as well as this wonderful CNIB ambassadors from the GTA to Ontario East. And that's a little bit about me. And as today's episode goes on, you'll learn more and more about me as well.
I'm very excited to learn more about you for sure, Neisha. And yeah, just already your introduction, just hearing your story about your sight loss and your background as well. So yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I guess going into me, I hate the spotlight on myself.
No, you don't.
So as I made mention at the beginning of the episode, my name is Ben. I am currently the program lead of advocacy, accessibility, and community engagement. That's definitely a mouthful. For myself, I'm a Black male, dark skin, and I'm an individual who, of course, lives with sight loss, retinitis pigmentosa. I was diagnosed at 2 years old. So just those intersectionalities. I also am a social worker, registered social worker. I went to school for my SSW, which is social service working, as well as a bachelor's of social work. And I'm currently doing my MSW. So just a bunch of different aspects, part of my life and living this awesome life. So you know what, let's get a little more detailed into experiences to show the audience and let the audience know. So even with yourself, Neisha, have you ever felt that your intersectionalities clashed as being a Black woman as well as having sight loss?
Great question. In the early part of my life, I would say no. But in the last 5 years, I would say yes. And the reason being is that for most of my life, I was a high partial, meaning that I did not use a white cane or a guide dog. The only way that you would have known that I had sight loss or some kind of eye condition was if you were a close family member or a friend, because I wore really thick glasses as a child. But then when I was out and about in the community, I would wear my contacts. So I was able to pretty much hide that part of myself when I was outside of my home and away from those who knew me best. So for majority of my life, I was just, a Black woman. That part of my life, I can't hide. I'm a dark-skinned Black woman, nor would I want to hide it. But it wasn't until back in 2017 when I lost the majority of my sight after an eye surgery, and I had to use a white cane, that I now had the identities of both my sight loss and being a Black female out in the community for everyone to see. And I would have to say, yeah, it was a challenge at times in, whether it be training with O&M or whether it be interactions within the sight loss community. I felt like I had to choose at times who I was, what part of myself need to be represented first. And I did struggle at times with it, because being of Trinidadian descent, there are some cultural things that come with sight loss that are stigmatized. And, it wasn't really, my family did not know how to deal with it, because back home in Trinidad, those individuals with sight loss, you don't really see them. They stay home, they're very much sheltered and protected. But here in Canada, we have a lot more freedom, a lot more supports inside the home and outside the home. And it was hard really juggling the two at the start of my sight loss journey. My family didn't quite understand how to embrace it, how to take it, but eventually, they're now totally on board and very proud of me and open to all aspects of me as well as myself. I am open to me as well.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that perspective. It evolved to that acceptance, right? That's yeah, I could totally imagine. And I could identify with that too. Using that word choose your identity. And I know there's some listeners who are probably thinking like, choosing your identity, why do you have to choose? Aren't you who you are? But yeah, you bring up a very good point about that, where you do have to choose for sure. Yeah, like I could totally identify and emphasize for that. Like even for myself, being Ghanaian, West African, and having both my parents born in Ghana, where I was born in Canada, I was still really involved in the culture. So if you look around my place, I do have little bits of my culture, and I'm so proud to be a Ghana boy. That's that's what we say, a Ghana boy. And I love it. Like even when I did visit back in 2011, I was just like, I just love the motherland. I love back home. And it almost feels sometimes, because the culture doesn't really highlight disability, and you could definitely jump in as well and kind of let the listeners know about the Trinidad, or the Trinidad culture. Like with us individuals from Ghana, it was almost like if you live with a disability, it was seen as a curse, and you'd have to be prayed for. And if you're back in the motherland of Ghana, you would you'd be stuck at home. It wouldn't even be thought of to go out by yourself or utilize what we have here, the resources we have here and the supports we have here. So it's almost choosing, am I actually a Black male Ghanaian, or do I have to choose to be blind? Because both of those intersectionalities aren't supported as much. You know what I mean?
Mhm. I know for in Trinidad, what they have is they have a basket making or basket weaving program. So when you have sight loss, you spend your days Monday through Friday at a program where you make baskets, and then after that you just go home. But that this program is strictly for those, from what I know, for those with sight loss. So when you go home, you're just at home. Your family tends to do everything for you. You're not really seen in public independently unless you are with somebody. Uh, so yeah, that's what it's like there. So to come to be here, and I'm telling my family after my sight loss, oh, I'm gonna go get a job. And they're like, oh, well, can you do that? Like, how will you do that? You know, like, oh, I'm traveling. You could do that. You should go with somebody. You know, it's just because from what they see, there people with sight loss are codependent, right? So yeah, I'm glad that we're breaking down those stereotypes.
Totally. And it's funny that we're talking about travel. Like, it was once upon a time, my family members were like, you can't, how can you even cross the road, let alone going anywhere by yourself? So
Mhm.
it's definitely important to have that education side to it, where uh, us as advocates and advocates to our communities can say, hey, here's me with sight loss, as like I say, Ghana boy with sight loss, or here's me as a African Canadian with sight loss, and look at what I'm doing. It's not associated with being cursed or hindered for having sight loss, you know?
Well, look at all that you're doing with your masters and your home, and you know your proof that you can you could do anything. You know, as long
Yeah.
as you put your mind to it, anything is possible.
And same with your work ethic and your planning and the goals that you have set and everything that you're doing at the CNIB. So I feel the
Hmm.
same way. A great role model to those individuals who can share similar intersectionality. So that even goes into the next question that I have for you, Neisha, is, with yourself growing up as a Black female with sight loss, did you ever have a role model that you could look up to?
No, and it's not because there weren't any out there. It's because of, like I said before, I was a high partial. So I didn't really feel like I belonged to the sight loss community growing up, um, because I was using contacts and glasses. Not that I ever felt excluded or no one embraced me. It's just at that time I didn't think I needed, um, the sight loss community. So I wasn't actively looking for someone for me to look up to help me understand what I was going through. It wasn't until I was in, like I said, my 30s when I started to go on my sight loss journey, that I was actively seeking, who out there represents me, who can I, reach out to, connect with, um, to figure out what's going on, in my life, and what this new chapter in my life is going to look like. And honestly, I couldn't find anyone. It was like finding a needle in a haystack. The struggle was definitely real during this time. And it wasn't even just finding a role model, it was finding people, uh, let's say nationality as me, people of color, just to relate to and connect with, and feel like I could share, what I was going through, because they would probably have similar experiences like myself, and that was hard. I would attend community groups and no one looked like me. I would attend, Braille writing or O&M and ILS, and no one looked like me. And this went on for about a year or so. I even went up to Lake Joe and no one looked like me. So I was like, oh my gosh, where are all the Black people? I'm like, I can't seem to find anyone who's Black with sight loss. Like, what's going on? So eventually I did start to meet people and start to connect, with members of my community who are Black. And I connected with people who are, not Black as well. I made some really great friends in the sight loss community in general, Black, white, Asian, what have you. I've made some really great friends, but in the beginning, it was really hard. And as for role models, I find that my friends in the community, they're my role models, like you and some of the other people I've connected with. Those are my role models because they encourage me, they push me to, to be better and to be strong and confident. So I'm not looking for a social media figure or someone out there that I probably would never be able to talk to or connect with. It's just those who are closest to me. Those are my role models. Those are the people that I look up to.
That's awesome. And you're hyping me up too much today. My head's not going to be able to go through my doorway for all the nice things that you're saying to me. I wish us working together was always like this, where you but even all seriousness, like just hearing your journey about seeking out other people who do look like you and have the similar experiences as you, I could totally relate to you when you do mention finding and seeking and looking and it's almost a part of you is missing because you're always like, I'm the only one. And the thing that boggles my mind is the fact that looking at it hindsight now, looking back, there is so many people who have sight loss, who are different intersectionalities, different races, just different. But it was just so interesting how it wasn't a way to find those people where that person could have even lived down the road from you, or that person could have been going to the same events as you, and you just never really found that person. So it makes me wonder, like, I think to myself, what was that reason? Like, why
I
wasn't
know
it
the
there?
answer.
Yeah, and you know what? I would throw it to you for sure. Let me know if you do have the answer.
I think the answer for me, and this is just what I've noticed, is that the events and the activities that were out there for our community, I mean, the sight loss community, our community, the Black community, we couldn't relate to them. That's what I am thinking. Because like you said, this is something really interesting is that, there are people who live down the street from you who have sight loss, who might be people of color. And that is true. There are people in this area where I am in right now who are people of color who have sight loss. And I never met them at any community events. Why? Because I think the events that were being offered didn't reflect all aspects of our community. And if they're not doing that, then people are not going to come. And it's not just people of color, it's, different age groups as well. If the activities or what's going on are not representing all demographics of the sight loss community, then you won't be able to meet all demographics of the sight loss community, right?
Totally get you.
It might be a bit controversial saying it, but that's what I perceived when I was, trying to figure out, where do I belong? What is it I want to do? Where is it I want to go?
Yeah, and it's definitely those layers because the organizations that we have for certain aspects of our identities of sight loss, of being colored, of our cultures, For some instance, religions, but other instances, just regions of the world and different diversities. Sometimes you just need to see them interact to actually
Mhm.
feel a part. So even for myself, growing up as a young Black male, I even just me as a person in general, there was interests that I did like. I love basketball. I love track and field. I loved different sports. I love music. I love my hip hop music. I love my Afrobeat music. I even like my classical rock and roll music. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
and just I would have loved to see myself represented for sure.
Yeah.
Like as easy as seeing someone who was colored, who did have sight loss, and going into using a cane. I'm going to use that as an example of using a cane. As a young Black male, and we were talking about role models, as a young Black male, you're sometimes, depending on who you are, you look at role models in the media. So you look at, since I'm a big basketball fan, you look at these cool basketball players. You look at these actors that are just cool. They have swag. You know, you have
Oh.
entertainers with just swag, and they're just so cool. And you're just like, I want to be just like the people on TV. I want to be like the Jay-Z's. You know what I mean? The
Mhm.
Nas's and the Nellies and Ja Rules and all that stuff, right?
Mhm.
But you would just never see them walk out. Like, can you imagine a rapper walking out with a cane? You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
vulnerability of these tough guys, and you mix that in with uh, being a Black male and toxic masculinity and being the man and being so tough and having no weaknesses, and you're walking around with a cane.
Mhm.
So as a young man, how am I going to identify with that? Like, I don't feel that's me, you know? I don't want to people to know my vulnerability because as we can't sugarcoat this. If you do have sight loss, it's some form of vulnerability. It's some sort of sharing with the world that I have sight loss and I do not fit into the regular norm of society, or at least the old regular norm of society. So
Mhm.
just to have that vulnerability when you're supposed to be tough, when you're supposed to be a man, when you look on TV and it's all these guys who are just tough, no one cries, no one lets the weakness out. It definitely just contrasted who I was. And at the beginning, you made mention on how you hid your sight loss. For me, I felt like I had to hide it. I had no choice. That was a coping mechanism, or
Mhm.
I would get picked on, or I would be told that I'm not really Black. I'd be not fit in with my fellow friends and family members, and it was almost like no choice but to hide that part of my
Mhm.
identity, especially when the one thing, and let me know if you could identify this. When you're in a group of people who have the same similarities, you're more comfortable.
Yeah,
If
definitely.
yeah, if you could share your experiences with that, Nisha, if you'd like.
Well, I find that when I'm in a group of people, you know, who have sight loss, various degrees of sight loss, I I don't feel like a burden. You know, when I am with my sighted friends, sometimes I wonder, okay, am I holding them back? Do they wish that they didn't have to give me so much direction, so much instruction? And sometimes I feel that I don't hang out with them as much because I wonder if they even want to be around me some of the time. You know, it's nothing to do with them. It's mostly to do with me and my insecurities. But when I'm with my posse, that's my sight loss posse. Uh, I am my most comfortable. I am my most confident, and it's not just because we all have sight loss. It's just because of how amazing they are. It strives and it makes me want to reach their level of awesomeness. as well. And also, I'm the type of person, you know this about me. I love training. I love improving, and so I get to get tips and tricks from them, so that way when I am on my own independently, I can flourish in whatever it is that I'm doing. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. What about you? What do you think?
For myself, it's definitely group of numbers, and we all are human beings for sure. And I remember having a conversation with a friend a little bit ago, and being a trailblazer is hard. No doubt about it. We all sometimes we have that perception in our mind where we're like, if you want to get something done, you have to be the first one to do it.
Mhm.
You have to be out there, you have to break ground, and you have to put the flag into the ground and be the first. But it
Yeah.
can be very exhausting. A lot of
Mhm.
shaky ground. And
Mhm.
it's almost we're an example for, let me use the example of shaving for young men with sight loss. You're a person who shaves and all that, and you could get advice from maybe someone who doesn't have the same kind of texture of hair. So I'm a black male, my hair's curly, it could be coarse, right? And if you're asking advice from someone who just has straight hair, and it's not the fault of that person, but they could suggest, oh, like just use a straight razor. But
Mhm.
for black folk, we use a straight razor and you're getting razor bumps for days. You know what I mean?
Oh, I know that, but okay.
You're as a black male, if you use a straight razor, you're getting razor bumps on your face for sure.
Mm.
So even just to have someone who's familiar with that,
Mhm.
the one thing I remember as a young man, and when I went to school all the way up north, remember looking for a barber because with me, this is this is Radio City. No one can see me, but my lineup just gets really bad. And for those who don't know what a lineup is, it's the hairline, and sometimes it could grow lower than usual. And if you're going bald, it could recede, right? So uh pretty much with going to up north and going to school, I remember looking for a barber. And I remember people would give me suggestions, and I'll walk in and it would be a barber, a white barber. And I'm not saying like, oh, like white barber, but there's people who don't know how to cut black hair and are not familiar in the way of cutting black hair. And I remember it was a lady who was just very nervous about cutting my hair. And you could tell because for someone who goes to a barber, just by the way someone holds the razor and the way they put it against your skull, you could tell that they're nervous. So,
Mm.
so I could tell she was so nervous. I got out of the chair, and this is when I was high pressure, so I had more sight. It
Mhm.
was a horror. It wasn't a good job,
Mm.
and that's an example of sometimes you just have to be aware or live a part of that demographic to understand.
Mhm.
And there's people who are like, what's a lineup? And oh, you could just go there to do it. It's like you don't understand. So that's why being around people you are familiar with, it can be beneficial. And I'm not saying to listeners to just be friends with people that are just like you. No, no, no.
No.
I am saying that it's advantageous to still be involved in your community, whether what kind of intersectionality is, or even touching base. It's important to have everybody, but just to that strength of having familiarity, like similarities. There we go. So definitely, I would promote for that. And yeah, even your examples, Neisha, worked very well with what I'm saying.
Mhm. Definitely. I totally agree. I mean, for me, it's I'm now starting, well, not now starting, but I have been on my sight loss journey for a couple of years now, and you know, it's been a challenge. It's been rewarding. It's had its ups and downs, um, but I agree. It's you should not, just surround yourself with just the people that share your disability. The way we're going to achieve inclusion is by, getting involved and putting ourselves out there. So that's something that I am working on. you know, I am trying to get better at it, but it's taking me some time.
I totally agree with you on that.
So, question for you, Ben.
Mhm.
What can be done to celebrate both of your intersectionalities?
Great question, Neisha. Great question. Honestly, I love how you asked that question because people don't really ask that too much. People think that
Mm,
you're either on side A or side B. Like if you're a Black dude, you celebrate this. If you're a person with sight loss, you celebrate this. So I believe a great way to celebrate both intersectionalities is to incorporate them in any activities or events that we do. So
mhm,
a beautiful thing, we have Black History Month coming up in February, and such an important day to just all individuals to learn about the histories of Black individuals and the contributions that these individuals have done for the existence of the world, right? Just like
mhm,
everybody else. So as a Black person looking at Black history, just to incorporate highlighting individuals who may have had a disability and
mhm,
who overcame the disabilities while making history at the same time, to have events where maybe they focus on Black history, but to have uh, accessibility in their events where
mhm,
they consider you as a person with sight loss. So if they have pictures of historical figures, they're able to describe it to you instead of it putting on the screen. Here's the historical figures. So you invited to those spaces and you feel
mhm,
that you're accepted in those spaces. And then even vice versa, like when you have organizations that do deal with disabilities, at the same time, it's like, okay, we have a holiday. So for example, although I'm not South Asian, but Diwali or Chinese New Year's or Eid, to have those reminders or have celebrations of the different events and things that are going on, to be like, okay, although we're an organization that deals with this disability, we're still aware of your culture. We're still aware of uh, who you are as a person. So you don't necessarily have to let go of both your intersectionalities. So
yeah.
uh, that's
It goes back to what you said about inclusion, right?
Mhm.
Like it's about it being our world being inclusive all around. That's the best way to celebrate both of our intersectionalities, not having to, like we said earlier, having to choose. Am I a Black woman today? And I have to put my cane away and no one can know that I have sight loss? Or well, I can't put my Blackness away. So am I taking out my cane today and representing both my Blackness and my white cane, but you're only seeing my white cane. You're not seeing, my my Blackness because you're focused too much on my cane. So that could possibly, happen as well. I think for me, I to piggyback on what you were saying, I would like to see that whenever I'm out in the community, regardless of what it is I'm doing, that I could just be myself and not hide. I remember last summer I was going on a boat cruise with a couple of my girlfriends. It was a Caribbean boat ride. where they had music and dancing and, you know, libations. And there were a couple of us who had sight loss, and there were a couple of us who were sighted. And one of the girls who had sight loss, it was her first time going on a boat cruise. She has her white cane, and she's like, oh, she asked me and the other girl, where are your canes? And we said, oh, they're in the car. And we had this whole debate for a good maybe half an hour about, well, why aren't you bringing your cane? What if you need to go to the bathroom? What if you want to go get a drink or get some food? Can't you use your cane to get around? And we're all saying, well, no, we can't, because there people be dancing and jumping and talking, the music will be loud, that no one would be paying attention to our white canes. And she's like, well, if we bring it and we introduce it, then they will get used to it. And we're both saying, now is not the time to be introducing people to the cane. But really, when is the right time? You know, will there ever be a perfect time, right? So all this to say is, like, you know, I would love to be able to celebrate all my intersectionalities and not have to, if I wanted to, put my cane in my pocket, and when I needed it, I would take it out. And the only way this can be done is if we are out there more, if we are consistent with our appearances, if we are consistent with where we show up in the world, you know, and that way, the more we are seen, the more we are out there, then people will be like, oh, someone's coming with a white cane, I'll just step aside. Oh, I see someone who looks like they're lost, they have a guide dog, let me go over, gently tap them on the shoulder, introduce myself, and assist them. They will become familiar with the ways in which to assist, to properly provide sighted guide, to properly provide assistance. And that way it's just natural, and we will all just breeze through the world perfectly. In the perfect world, that's how I see things operating, you know? And yeah, with time, we'll get there.
I totally agree. And it's so funny how it was making mention of educating people even when you're going on a boat cruise. Because for some reason, I'm imagining people thinking, when you educate someone about sight loss in those certain events or circumstances, you pull out a PowerPoint, you pull out a portable TV, and you're like, okay, so we're gonna go through sighted guide today. We're gonna go through etiquette and all that stuff, right? But
it's like, before you get on the plane, these are the exits, right? When you're getting on a plane, this is how you put on your mask before you get on a boat ride. Okay, this is a cane and this is a guide dog. Look out for these objects. If you need assistance, this is what you do, you know? Yeah, right. All that doesn't need to happen. It's just the more we're out there, the more people will become educated.
Exactly. And then self-advocacy, it's simple sometimes, just by you having that confidence. And shout outs to a friend who has a great saying confidence is attractive. Confidence is very attractive, and just having that confidence and own, okay, I got this cane, okay, I'm wearing this, I look good, like that really resonates. And it goes back to, I know I was saying about how exhausting trailblazing is, but it goes back to trailblazing because you hit the nail right on the head, Neisha, when you made mention, when people see it, the more people see it, the more it becomes normalized in a person's head. So really great point. The more you go, the more you own it with a cane, the more you dress just good already. And not that if you don't dress good, you're any different, but the more you just be yourself while having that cane, or while living with sight loss and using equipment and technology, the more you resonate with people.
Right.
And people will come out the woodshed for sure. So thank you for sharing that story, Neisha. Okay, so I am going to ask the last question for sure. Is there any resources that you have to offer for both your intersectionalities?
Any resources that I have to offer for both my intersectionalities? I am like a resource junkie. I love, like I said, professional development, resources, just figuring things out. So some of the people that I looked up to, I watch a lot of YouTube videos. So there's a Toronto-based YouTuber named Alicia, and Alicia's Guide. And I'll link her information in the show notes. But she deals a lot, she has star guards, and she deals a lot with, day-to-day living with star guards. And, she has some great videos on, how she does her online shopping, how she does shopping in public in general, how she is active using her phone, using her iPhone, using her Mac computer. So that's someone that I definitely like to get information from when I am, kind of trying to figure things out with cooking, with shopping, with living healthy lifestyle, with being active, things of that nature. Black Voices United, that group has been
Represents.
instrumental
Represents.
in my life in the last like almost 2 years now. With the professional development work that we do, the mental health discussions that we have, just the overall, fun that the group brings to my life, and the resources, the connections, and networking that we do within the group has just been instrumental as well. So along with a few podcasts that I listen to, which, as this podcast goes on, I'm sure I will name drop and provide information on those when it's relevant. But those are the two that are the biggest tools I use right now in my life. So Alicia's Guide on YouTube and our monthly Black Voices United meeting. What about you, Ben? What are your resources?
Definitely. I love those resources that you recommended. For myself, I'm not going to get too specific with the resources, but I'm going to kind of throw both of us under the bus, not under the bus, but both of us, where I definitely believe that we're great resources to just how to be as a person, right? Just to how to be as a person. And it's totally fine to have these intersectionalities, and it's totally fine to ask these questions. And also, instead of more so resources, even a piece of advice for anybody who does live with similar identities that we have is, with the organizations that you're part of, don't be afraid to mix them up, because I feel like just having these different identities, it's like cooking, you know what I mean? You gotta throw these different parts in the pot to create who you are as a person, right? So you do deserve to mix those in those organizations, right? So just not to be afraid to say, okay, if I'm a part of this organization, or if I have this identity, what does it look like when I mix this identity in, right? What does, I don't know, like entertainment or challenging music, bringing us different styles. So for me, as someone who makes hip hop music, it's okay to mix in, you know what? I'm going to throw in some lyrics about having sight loss. It's perfectly fine. Like, that's a beautiful perspective, and that's a perspective that someone will appreciate. So don't be afraid to throw in your identity to your different perspectives, for sure. And I'm going to kind of piggyback off of what you said with Black Voices United. It's a really amazing resource to have. And even, we're going to probably mention it a little bit later on, diversity and inclusion page is a great resource. And just even individuals at the CNIB, like, we're very open to ever ask questions when you do want to know about your different intersex. So that's where I feel very great resources, for sure.
Awesome. Yeah. I like those.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Hey, you don't need all these books taking up a bookshelf. All you have to do is
Nope.
just yell out your window, stick your head out the window and be like, CNIB advocacy team, help me out.
Okay. Wow. No.
All right. So Noah, we're coming to an end. So Noah, Neisha, any last thoughts that you want to give the audience? This was an amazing episode where we got to bear it all to our audience members.
Yeah, I'm just thank you so much, Ben, for putting this together. I am so happy that I get to be a part of this journey with you. I'm looking forward, and stay tuned, everyone. We're going to have some great guests, great conversations with members of the community, different intersectionalities, and yeah, and hopefully you get to know me and I get to know you as time goes on.
Yeah, and honestly, I just want to say, for those listeners, celebrate who you are. Celebrate all parts of you. Like I said, it's like a recipe. It's different pieces of you, and I'm so excited for this podcast and to have our different guests and to gain different perspectives. And I forgot to ask you this question, Neisha, throughout the podcast. What do you think about the theme song? What do you think about that theme song?
It's all right, but that guy on there, his voice is really weird. I'm just kidding. It's awesome. I love it. It's hip. It's funky.
I definitely send them a memo. So Neisha, can you hit the audience with what they got to go do?
Okay. Well, I want to thank everyone for listening to our inaugural episode of the Lens Living Diverse podcast. Please feel free to visit our diversity and inclusion page on the CNIB website. The link to the website will be in the show notes below. And make sure you rate and subscribe to the Lens Living Diverse on all your favorite streaming platforms.
Thank you.
Any last words?
All I gotta say is thank you, everybody, for joining us on The Lens. I'm once again your host, Ben.
And I'm your co-host, Neisha.
Take care, everybody. Peace.
Bye.